Welcome back to another episode of Why Do I Do That? I have Steph here with me again today.
Hello.
And we're going to be having a conversation about red flags. So what people's red flags are, why they might be their red flags, what your red flags are, what our red flags are, all the things to do with red flags in dating.
Yes.
And Steph's going to take the lead today.
Yeah, I'm in Jess's role today, kind of. Not really. Yes. All right. So we're going to dive straight into it. But of course, now that I'm in the driver's seat, Jess, I would like to know what one of your top red flags is.
Like my red flag or
Yeah.
a red flag that I look for in dating? Like personal red flag or?
I want personal red flag and then a red flag in dating.
Okay. My red flag is that I have too many magical abilities, and if someone does give me the ick or if I feel a little bit protective or whatever, I have this amazing technique where I can just go into my subconscious and cut the cord and completely disconnect from them. So if I feel like someone's going to hurt me or whatever, I actually have the ability to do that, and it's a big red flag because I don't actually like go for repair. I did it with Gav at the start. I was like, this is going to be too hard. He's traveling. It's too much. So I just laid down and did healing on myself and cut the cord with him. And then 2 days later was like, no, not into it. Don't even care. That's my biggest red flag is like, I can just disconnect like boom.
Yeah.
And
You run instead of
shut
lean
down.
in.
I totally can run.
You're a runner.
Gav calls me a runner. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't run as much now. I have to give myself credit, but that is totally my red flag. I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Bye. And then red flags that I like notice, there's like one that comes to mind. There was a guy that I was dating. Probably only went on like 2 dates with him. Seemed super nice. And then on the third date, he was talking about his ex and he was like, oh, we broke up because like she had major trust issues. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, tell me more about that. And then he was telling me these stories of like circumstances he'd got himself into that had like poked her trust issues. And I was like, dude, like what the fuck? Like
It's
you
giving
don't go
you're
home
the problem.
with a random girl.
Yeah.
And like, and nothing, like he's like, yeah, no, I went home with this random girl, but like we were just talking and stuff and blah, blah, blah. And like he was telling me all these different stories of like nights that he'd gone out and ended up back at girls' houses and partying, and she just had major trust issues and she couldn't trust him. And I was like, no, you just probably shouldn't be doing that. Bye.
Yeah.
That was a red flag for me. I was like, that's so immature.
Massive red flag. Like I had an accent just then. You're the problem.
He's the problem. It's me. Hi.
Thank you for sharing. I'm going to follow off that and say that my personal red flag has similar textures to yours in terms of I feel like I can definitely be a bit of an avoidant when it comes to things. I've gotten so much better. So I would like to say I'm a recovered avoidant. But I know that in really emotional situations or when communication is probably needed best, I'm very, very good at communicating, but I need a bit of time first. And that is, if you looked at it from a certain way, like just what I need to like navigate through a bit of conflict. But I also know it comes from this sense of avoidancy where I try to avoid first. Similar to you, like you kind of you retreat before you come back in. And I see that as a red flag as well and I'm trying to work on it too, but definitely similar red flag.
Yeah. And then what about when in dating? What's a red flag?
In dating, in someone else, probably a big red flag for me is how they treat you around friends and family and in public. I think watching their behavior or watching how they treat you, like if they are the type of person to go out with their friends or in a group situation and any respect for you or like jokes at your expense constantly and just this demeanor change, I think is the biggest red flag. And you can just start to see through who they really are because their ego steps up. Yeah. And you're kind of like, that's interesting. You don't feel comfortable to show me or that part of yourself or who you really are in some way. I find that the biggest red flag, and that chameleon-like energy when it comes to friends or even sometimes family.
Yeah.
Red flag. So with that being said, we're going to stay on track with dropping some red flags.
Okay.
So I'm going to say the red flags that have been sent in. We've made some question boxes on Instagram. So these have come from people. First red flag, we're going to unpack them a little bit and just have a little discussion. But basically, first red flag that is here is bad manners, still speaking about their ex or their wife.
Yeah. Okay. Well, bad manners is just bad manners.
Yeah. Sorry. It says speaking as of their ex as their wife. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. So speaking of their ex-wife.
So being like, oh yeah, my wife.
My wife. Yeah.
Ugh.
That would give me like the indication that that person's actually like not over their wife yet.
Yeah. Or not fully aware that they're not together.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Not over it.
Yeah.
Like it's not in the past tense. I think I started calling my ex-husband. Like the day I was out, I was like, my ex-husband. We weren't even divorced yet, but I was like, my ex-husband. Like,
yeah. No, I totally agree.
It's my ex-husband.
And that is a red flag. And, you know, I guess
is.
There's some situations where maybe it's like really amicable and there's like good relationships all round. But even then, they are not your wife anymore. And that would make your current partner feel uncomfortable. Red flag.
Yeah, totally a red flag.
And bad manners. Oh,
yeah.
No. Rude to the waiter kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Next one, honesty. You can feel when you can feel that someone is not being honest.
Yeah. That's
big red flag.
100% a red flag. And I think, again, people can become hyper vigilant to this sort of thing. So there is like a balancing act that we have to have in that, because I think sometimes people will like, especially when you're initially dating, will kind of put on a little bit of a show. That is definitely a red flag when you can feel that somebody is. It's so hard though, because I think I work with so many traumatized women who think that every man is a liar. They have like a lot of negative men beliefs. Every man's a liar. You can't trust men. Men aren't safe. And so it doesn't really matter what any guy says. They go through them and every man is not right, not safe, liars. And they get this like perception. So it's finding that like little thing of like, is it your intuition telling you, or is it trauma that's like stopping you from being able to feel like trust any man at all?
Yeah, 100%.
Such a hard balancing act. But
one
of those things.
Context would be good.
Context,
too.
yeah. And one of those things that you do need to like dive into, because I think I have clients where they'll tell me things and I'll be like, what the actual fuck? Like that is such a red flag. And they'll be like completely unaware. And then I have clients that are like, he had this red flag and this red flag and this red flag. And I'm like, ooh, you're the red flag.
Yeah.
So, and they're actually the ones that have all of the beliefs around not being able to trust and things like that. So I think it's one of those things that it's so hard for you to know if it's actually a you thing or a them thing, unless you have some sort of outside breakdown. Because I've had things where I've felt like it's a red flag, but when I've actually broken it down, it's a past trauma or a trigger that's being activated, and it's actually not, they're not who I think that they are. Like I'm relating them to somebody else and that small behavior to somebody else, but in the overall spectrum, they're actually a good person, if that makes sense.
Yes, 100%.
So it's like you need that sounding board and like that ability to be able to have sometimes other people's perspectives and opinions and to be able to talk to people, because there's so much information out there that says, oh, you know, you shouldn't talk about your relationship with other people and things like that.
Yeah.
But people in some people don't even know that they're in a toxic relationship because they think that what's happening is normal. So that was a huge tangent. But yeah, I feel like,
definitely couldn't agree more.
But lying and knowing that someone's lying is definitely a red flag.
Next one we have up is crazy eyes.
Crazy eyes. This came from Gav. This was Gav's response. And it came because I'm going to throw him under the bus here. Because when he first started dating after his last relationship, he had been talking to this girl online who was a total catfish, like had edited her photos. We were talking about this earlier. Had edited her photos, looked completely different, like filters, all the things. And he stupidly invited her to his house to cook dinner. He's a good cook.
Yeah.
And she rocked up and she was like a full crack addict. Like she had the most craziest eyes, and she was like like dingy as, like he just
Yep.
that's the crazy eyes. So I feel like the thing there is like his lesson from that was like, don't invite someone to your house on the first date.
Yeah, definitely. And if they have crazy eyes.
And crazy
Red
eyes.
flag.
Like he said, he reckons that it's not just her. There's been other people that like he's dated or whatever, and they just have this like look in their eyes that you can just tell that they're crazy.
Yeah, even with men, they've got that like look.
There's a look. You can tell. The eyes, what's that saying? The eyes are the window to the soul.
Yes.
It's true.
Love that.
Legit red flag. Tick.
Okay, so people with no friends or really shitty friends that I don't want to be friends with.
People with no friends is a little bit of a red flag, I think. But it's not a red flag in the way that I would say like dump that person and run. I would say that that's an indication that that person has trouble making connections, or they have a belief that they're alone. And I don't think that that's like irreparable if that person is a really nice person.
Yeah.
And I would be like looking at what's underneath that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also feel like,
because some people genuinely just stick to themselves a lot more. And it could be this reflection of, is that really a red flag, or are you just really trying to find someone that has a more of a friendship group, is a little bit more outgoing, and so therefore someone with no friends maybe is a red flag.
Well, and I know the person who asked this question, and I know that she's like a super, in her masculine, independent, successful businesswoman, and I know that she wouldn't want like her red flag would be like clinginess, and I think that would fall under that category of like her perception is that if he doesn't have any friends that he's going to cling to her.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I would put like a personal spin on this too, because like my partner Harrison is one of those people that is like really close to himself, and he doesn't have he has friends, of course. We do snow season, so but they're all over the world. But when we come home to our hometown, like he doesn't have as many friends, but he's so secure in himself, and it has no effect on our relationship whatsoever. So I can confidently say that unsolicitedly, if it helps in any way, some people that are really like inwards and just close, you know, they can actually be really secure people. But I do agree that if they have really shitty friends,
the shitty bits
that you don't want to be friends with.
When you're dating
Red
someone,
flag.
you are dating their family and their friends as well. Like it's a real thing. And so you have to be like, again, in my past relationship, I never from the beginning got along with the friends or the sister and things like that. It was for a long time like a struggle because they just weren't my people and I was not their person.
That's so
hard.
And
they become such a big part of your life. So I think it is a bit of a red flag if you couldn't see yourself spending a lot of time with those people.
Yeah.
Because like you are who you choose to be around and you become you don't always become that, but like it also ends up blowing up into like issues if you've got hugely different values and lifestyle and way of living, all of that.
It's like a red flag on the potential of your relationship working more than maybe a red flag on that person.
100%.
You know, it's like, I feel like you can have red flags in the people and then, okay, this is a red flag. We might not work or we might not have that potential or we might not have a healthy relationship. That feels like one where it's like, okay, yes, a little bit him because it's like you have shitty friends and that can be a representation and reflection of you. But also, like you said, if you are dating their friends and family as well, then and you don't want to be associated to that. Red flag for that too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So overall, I'd say red flag. All right, next one. We've got quite a few, so...
Yeah, pick the best ones.
Gav, coming in hot with the red flags. People that drive under the speed limit in the right
That's
lane.
not fair. He's totally talking about me. That's not a red flag. That's him having road rage.
Oh, this one's good. It's giving you problem. Everything is sexual or sex related.
Well, yeah. Okay. Big subject because it is giving you, it's giving like, I mean, perception, is it everything? Or are you just hypersensitive to the subject? Are you like repressed in the area of, you know, sexual acts, desire, pleasure, all those things? Is it actually every conversation? Or are they just like a really sexual person and you're not?
Yes, that's a big question.
It's a big question. And again, this is a client, but I can't recall all the details of this client. So I'm like, oh, but I think like there is a line. Like I think like
Absolutely.
if you're like on a date and the guy's just like making jokes all the time about like, I don't know, sucking his dick or whatever, like you'd just be like, okay.
Yeah, and making you uncomfortable, like, you know, touching your ass every time he can and you're feeling like, ugh, like,
Yeah.
and it's always happening and it's
Yeah.
just annoying.
Yeah.
Then yeah, red flag.
It is a red flag if it's like if it's the only thing. Again, hard relate. I've been in a relationship where sex was like the only thing that tied us together. No emotional connection, nothing in common, nothing to talk about. I've been in those situations, and so then that is a red flag because you need the other parts of the recipe. Like you need friendship and you need emotional connection and communication and all those things. So it is a red flag if it's all they care about and all they talk about and all they think about. But it's also like, is that true?
Yeah.
I'd be asking yourself, is that true?
Definitely. And I also have come to mind, like, you know, have you guys had a conversation potentially on what you both want and need sexually too? Like maybe what they want and need is actually different and there's that clash there. So they're wanting more or they're trying to express more and there's this like reach out there and you're actually not wanting it in that way, or maybe you're just wanting something different. So it's like a conversation could change that completely. And this is going off all with that little question box right now. But yeah, I would be interested to know like what are your sexual expectations, preferences.
Like why are they bringing it up all the time as well? Like, is it because they're not getting it? It's because they want it. They want to keep bringing it into the conversation.
Or like a constant slap on the ass could be one girl's like, oh my gosh, I love that he does that so often. Or one girl's, oh, can he not touch me like that? I'd prefer for it to be a bit more respectful and like to kiss on my neck. Like it could be something coming down like that. So I think a conversation, key.
Yeah, absolutely.
But outside of that, if it's too much, if it's uncomfortable, if it's just like arrogant and stuff.
Yeah, and it depends whether it's like, if they're talking about sex all the time of like what you're going to do tonight and things that they want to do with you versus like just talking about it all the time like with friends or actually like I know people that like make like everything in like group conversations make everything sexual, but they're like those kind of guys that just give you the heebie-jeebies like that you just think you're not right.
Yeah, like the energy around
that is a red flag. Like there is people that like men that
or
are
you're
like
having
that.
Yeah, you're having like a conversation around the dinner table and everyone's having a good time and it's like, oh, this salad fork just turns me on. Like shut up.
No, I know. There's like I have a few people that have been in my life that are like that they just make everything sexual and make inappropriate jokes and like make jokes about things that are like
red flag
for me as well, probably because of this is like super deep for our light conversation, but like red flag for me as well is I was dating this guy and he had like sent me a reel like as a joke and it was about like making jokes about like pedophilia, pretty much like having sex with kids or like just like super dark humor. And I can have dark humor sometimes, but with that I was like, I like obviously don't find that funny because it's actually like really not funny when it happens to you.
Yeah. Like
and then I told him that and then he continued, like they just slipped out. Like it was his go-to thing was to make jokes about being like sexual with children and things like that.
That is fucking
That was
weird.
like a huge red flag.
That is a massive red flag.
But do you know, it's actually so common. Like I've been in so many social situations where people just make like just throwaway comments about and jokes about it. And that's actually weird. For me, that's like a huge red flag where I look at people and I'm like, oh, I wonder like how you can find that funny. I almost sometimes want to say to people, especially if they have kids, like, hold on a minute. If someone actually did that to your child, how would you feel? And like make them think about it. But then I'm also like, don't be the party. Don't be the party people. Don't be the buzzkill. But like, that's a total red flag. Like if they make jokes about sex that's like inappropriate or like rapey jokes.
Yeah. No, that is a massive red flag.
Because there's like people do that. They make like, that's
not cool. Red flag.
That's like an obvious red flag, but maybe not for some people. There could be women that are listening that have a partner that makes jokes like that and don't see that. That's actually an indication of where they're at subconsciously.
Yeah, definitely. I've had friends who've had partners that have made comments that I'm like, are you actually serious?
Yeah.
Like, I've actually lost/walked away from a long-term friendship, like grew up together, went through everything together, friendship, because she ended up with a guy. And this is after a long time of like trying to help and trying to do all the things and stuff until it got like a personal boundary, like from a guy that would do all that stuff and like just water on a duck's back. And I was like, I can't, I need to remove myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that you say that, walking red flag.
Huge red flag.
A red flag with legs.
Because if they make jokes about it, the chances are, like, you know, there's that thing of like half of what we say is a joke is true. Sometimes it is just purely a joke, but if they're making jokes about something regularly, it's almost like they're seeking validation that that behavior is actually okay if people laugh.
Yeah. Ooh, red flag.
Let's just dust that off, sorry.
Dust that off. Cleanse
But it's
the
an
aura.
important one.
It is. This one's funny. His mum drops him off.
Oh my God. To the date. I mean, circumstantial. Like,
It
his
is
car could have just
circumstantial.
blown up and he just needs a lift, but he could have got a lift from an Uber.
Or a friend.
I mean, I have like such a split opinion about boys' relationships with their mums because I have 2 boys. I've been with someone who had a toxic relationship with a mum, and then I've seen healthy relationships with mum, but then I see that there's not sometimes a huge difference between the two. And I feel like if mum's, how old is he? You know,
I think it could
is he
be
18?
I think it could
17?
be more of an ick than a red flag.
Yeah, maybe
Potentially.
more of an ick.
Because I like context would be key with this. Like you said, did his car just blow up and like his mum lives around the corner and, was like,
does
I'll
his
give you a
mum
life.
like drop him off and does she like do all
his
his washing and I mean just at the same time and like buy him?
I think mummy's boy
Is she
in that
too
way.
far inserted into his life or not?
Red flag. But his mum's drops him off is very specific.
It is.
So could be an ick, could be a red flag if the context of that is that it's all the time and he lives in his mum's
Mum's
pocket.
always dropping him off. Yeah.
I feel like this is absolutely a red flag. Guys who talk excessively about their ex.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean,
Excessively
it's
is
giving
the-
like they're not over it or they haven't healed from it or we're maybe in the wrong and there's like, because there's that thing that people do where they talk about something that someone did, which is what they did. And like, yeah.
Yep. Or they're trying to like fill in any silence between you two with this convincing energy that this happened in my life, but I'm not like that anymore. And you're probably not looking for someone that is like who I used to be. So I'm going to just talk until my brain pops off about my exes because that's all I have to talk about. Bye.
And most of the time, if they're talking about their ex a lot, they're talking about them in a negative way.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
I mean, would you prefer, I mean, it could be a negative way or it could be a positive way. What if would you find it a red flag
I
if
know
you're,
what question you're about to ask.
huh?
I know what question
Yeah,
you're
would
about
you
to
find it a red flag if your partner was always talking about their ex in a positive way, like always talking about them?
Excessively? Yes.
What's excessive?
Like bringing it up unsolicitedly out of a conversation or like that plant over there reminds me of my ex. Oh, she just fed the plants all the time. So good of her. Like that kind of like unsolicited.
It's not in a conversation and relevant.
Out of context, that would annoy me. But yeah, the relationship I'm in now, like there's positive talk of the exes, even though there was like negative situations and I liked that.
Yeah.
But there's no excessiveness. I think in excessive, oh gosh, nearly punched the microphone out.
Anything in
way
excess, yeah.
in excess, I feel like is a red flag. Like if they're just like brown nosing them or hating on them all the time, it's time to move on.
Because what I was going to say with the negative is like I feel like sometimes people will talk about the negatives heaps as a way to paint a better picture of themselves. So it will be like, she did this to me and she did that to me and she used to say this and like they'll say all these things to paint themselves as like the victim.
Yeah.
So that you feel sorry for them, which is like quite a toxic negative trait because that is like trying to like pull on your empathy, which is normally like that narcissistic.
And why do they feel the
empathetic
need to do that?
relationship. Yeah.
Like why do they think that you care?
Yeah, but also, like it's that they're looking for a woman that can come and like save them. They've got that victim mentality.
Yep.
So that's what would be happening there. And then you end up,
Yep. So guys who talk excessively about their ex, whether it's a negative or positive, red flag. Guys who lie even when they could have told the truth, red flag.
Red flag. Had that before and had to be
Same.
like, why did you say that? Like you,
Yep.
like on a phone call or whatever. Like, why did you say that? That's not the truth. Like, why do you
Yep.
have to change it? And it was for this person just like a habit, and nothing sinister. It depends on what they're lying about too,
Yes.
because there's like embellishing, putting a little bit of mayo on things, which I still don't love.
Yep.
If anything, I will like try and tell something as bluntly as possible. So,
Yep.
because I don't do that. When people do that, I'm like, more of an ick than a red flag. It's just more of like, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
Like,
and context as well.
yeah.
Like, is it like a self-preservation thing? Or is
I
it
know
just
who
like
asked this
little-
question. It was my mother, and she is talking.
It is my mother.
It is my mother, and she's talking about my dad. And my dad used to lie, like when you don't even have to lie.
Yeah.
And then his lies would turn into, like, he would tell you the same story, but each time it would be different.
Yeah.
And like,
Just
it was
a
just
compulsive liar.
compulsive
Doesn't know how
liar.
to be honest. Yeah.
Like, literally. And I think that that is obviously a red flag, because
yes.
not being able to tell the truth is like how you go. It's a trust flag.
Yeah, pretty much. Too much too soon. It's kind of what we spoke about in the ick. I think it can be a red flag. I think it can also be a conversation.
Too much too soon.
And
Perception
it could
as
be
well.
a difference in what you're both looking for in the relationship. So again, context is king, but
I feel like
can be a red flag.
it's the energy behind it too, because I think sometimes someone can be keen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's an indication of a person who's anxiously attached.
Yes.
I think secure people are a bit more calm.
Not
They
rocking up
still
on your
have
work.
interest, and they still like,
Yeah.
you know, like they still like showing up, they're checking in and things like that. Like Gav was quite persistent, not like too much, but like he would, if
Yeah,
I
like fun, healthy persistence.
yeah,
Not
just like
rocking
what's
up at your
going on?
workplace.
Like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. But
Yeah.
no, I think, yeah, too much too soon is like again, it's a sign of an anxious attachment. And if you are a secure person, I think you could recognize that and be like,
Yes.
hey, like I'm really into you, but like, let's just pump the brakes or whatever. If you're an avoidant, you love it because it's like so much validation for your ego, and avoidants love all of that at the beginning. But then if you're, but then they get over it after a period of time, as we know.
That was me.
And it flips. Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, I think like why, like if we look at the red flag, like, and we go back to the why, like why is someone being too much too soon? It's an anxious attachment style.
Yeah.
And they're finding someone, and they're like putting all
Yeah.
their, like they're getting
You don't want to
activated by
find
that.
someone. Yeah, you don't want to find someone who's going to put all their eggs in their basket for you the second they meet you. Because, I mean, it's up to you to draw healthy boundaries and have those conversations. Yeah. But I think it gives an insight into, like you said, their attachments, what they're willing to do. And you don't want to have that kind of pressure on yourself or,
Yeah.
no.
It's hard to know with someone that's too much too soon and with a really anxious attachment style whether they actually like you or whether they are just attaching to you because they just like want anybody that they can have.
That's a really
the
good
best thing,
point.
if you're the person who feels like you are too much too soon and you have that really anxious attachment style, the best thing, and I've recommended this to so many clients, is doing this thing called abundance dating, where like, because the anxious person gets attached to one person, they normally like, they'll go on a dating app, they'll pick one person that is like their favorite, and they'll kind of ignore everybody else and be obsessed with that person until something goes wrong, and then they'll be obsessed with another person, and they're never really talking to multiple people at one time, because that's what that happens with their attachment style. So I always say to people that know that they've got that, like intentionally book dates with 3 different people and date multiple people at one time, because it like turns the volume down on that anxiousness.
Yep.
And you actually start to like step back and evaluate those people and whether they're the right match for you, and not just like, you know, eyes closed jumping into whoever you just become obsessed with because you need to be with anybody, somebody.
This is, that's me looking for a rental at the moment. I know that's such the theme switch, but like,
No, but
I get so personally attached on one house that I don't apply for any other houses. And I just want that house. And then when it doesn't come through, I'm like obsessed with the next one. It's like, I need to abundance.
You need to
House
abundance
supply.
rent. abundance
So I
search.
love that. And I think it's actually such an important point to make too. Like, yeah, love it. So I'll pick one more because all the other ones are kind of encapsulated into what we've already done. But a big one that I think is definitely a red flag is a big ego. So as soon as I see a cocky ego, bye-bye. And it actually has said bye.
Yeah, so why? I mean, if we look at both sides, she sees that ego and it probably reminds her of somebody that she dated.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, nobody likes somebody who is like excessively cocky. But then also, I know people perceive them as cocky and I just see them as confident powerhouses.
Yes.
So perception, do you think that they're better than you, or do you think that they think that they're better than you? Is that what's happening there?
Yep.
And then on the flip side of that, like, why would somebody be showing up to a date cocky and ego? Maybe they're fucking nervous.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like big noting themselves and they're like that because they're actually scared of what's inside, which is a red flag, because if they're not doing any inner work, they'll continue to be like that, and that ego cockiness can become controlling and manipulative because they've got that lower self-worth behind it, which is, people always talk about narcissists as like the worst people in the world, like narcissistic relationships, my narcissistic ex, it's like the fucking keyword of the last 5 years. But narcissistic people are like those big egos that they have and those toxic traits that they have are all coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
Because they feel underneath worthless, small, not important, and they're trying to prove so hard that they are, that it comes out so excessive.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if that person's willing to work on themselves, can you like love them and help them with that? And maybe there is a good person underneath, but also I tried to do that for like a decade and it also is really hard and doesn't work sometimes. But
yeah, 100%. And I think as well, like, being able to really see the difference between a few things here is like, okay, they might have a big ego, but I have a big ego and I can happily admit that. But I think you can have a big ego and not be arrogant and be a good listener and be able to control it and have self-awareness and like be outgoing and do the things. Or you can have a big ego and have that like cocky arrogance, really clear sense of lack of self-awareness where they're just like a tornado when they come in, they're not listening, they're not even making eye contact. It's all about them kind of ego.
Yeah.
It's like, that's 100% a red flag, like for sure. But I do think like understanding the ego could be a really powerful thing, because like I remember when I had a coach be like, "Well, you have a big ego," and I was like, so triggered by it. I was like, no, I don't.
I mean, this is the thing, like people always talk about, like spirituality talks about being egoless and like surrendering the ego. But your ego is essentially yourself. It's your personality.
It's like a part of your psyche.
Yeah.
It's
so
not going anywhere, guys.
I feel like it's not bad to have, like it's a great thing to have a built up ego. Like we want an ego that's like, I'm fucking powerful, I'm amazing, I'm
you just
awesome,
gotta have a
I'm
healthy
strong.
relationship
But
with
how
your
that comes
ego.
out.
Yeah.
But most of the time what's actually happening is those people don't have a big ego, they have a small ego, because their ego, if you think about the ego as a set of beliefs, is I'm powerless, I'm worthless, I'm nothing, I'm small, and their behaviors and the way that they like try and cover that becomes so big. But a big ego, or like a healthy big ego, is I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm confident. Those people don't necessarily show up into a room.
No, because they don't need to.
They're quiet, they're calculated, they're open and friendly and loving, but they're like, their big ego, they don't need to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's not actually, that's
yeah,
not
it's
really
like the
her.
cockiness and the arrogance is a manifestation of having a teeny tiny little ego.
Yeah, literally. And then if you think about that from that perspective, like how can you love that? Like how can you love that and like help that person to accept those parts of themselves? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, if that's all that date or whatnot is about and you cannot get past it, and that's just a massive red flag and they're a walking red flag, like fair enough. But pardon me, I think what could be common especially is like women finding themselves like on these dates and in the dating world, and they see a slight bit of arrogance or a slight bit of cockiness and that overpowers everything. Ick, gone. But it's like that very much just like what you were saying is like, it's just like overcompensation, but they actually have some really beautiful and other traits. And your second date is a completely different thing because it's come down a bit and they're not trying to like put on this front so much. So that's where it could be good to just like make sure you're breathing through your dates and just being able to see the good things as well as the perceived icks.
Yeah.
Obviously you're going to have some things that are like literal walking red flags and you never want to see them again. And like, it's a massive fat no. But yeah, I feel like some men can just put that on the front because they're scared or they're nervous, and underneath that, after a couple of dates, it dissolves a bit.
They are, yeah, different. Yeah.
And be a red flag for sure.
Yeah, we can all be like, really, at the end of the day, we all have little red flags, big red flags.
Yeah.
Like, we all have past relationships, behaviors, patterns. Like, we all have red flags, but it's just looking at, and I say this to my clients, and I feel like we've talked about this before, is like, it's not so much about looking for like the generic red flags, because so many of my clients are like, oh, is that love bombing? Is that this? Like, they're trying to like make sure that they're checking that there's no toxic behaviors, and then they're like not actually enjoying the dating stage. But also like, it's not so much about like, is this a red flag and is this person toxic and could it end up being X, Y, Z? It's like, how do I feel around this person? Is this person good for me right now? Does it feel good to be with them?
No one you sit opposite with on a date is a perfect person. Like, and I really want to just like reiterate what you said then, is like, we do all have different red flags. We all have our reasons, our standards, our boundaries, our flags because of, past relationships, childhood, don't want to be hurt in the same ways, what you've heard from other people, what you've heard on podcasts, all the things. But it just genuinely comes down to figuring out what your non-negotiables are, how you're feeling in your body, what you're willing to like look past maybe on a second date, and speak to someone about it. Like, if you find that you're constantly cock blocking yourself or constantly leaving dates feeling so disheartened and you're never finding the right person and blah, 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 reach out to Jess, reach out to our spaces, because that's where you're actually going to be able to dissect that and unpack that and be able to see where am I, where are they, and have the coping mechanisms to move through like these very, very real red flags sometimes, or perceived red flags.
Yeah, but it's all information.
Yeah.
Like, it's data collection.
Data collection, literally.
It's literally data collection. It's like, oh, that triggered me. Is that me or is that them? And once you go through all of those layers, eventually you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now this is just a value. That's a boundary.
Cool.
That's it. You got it clear. But until you do that work, you have no idea.
Yeah. You might love them and then look under the table and they have red shoes on.
Yeah.
Which won't make sense to you unless you watch the other episodes. So
That's true. I forget about that sometimes. Awesome. Well, that was amazing. Thank you for reading out the questions and for coming back in today. And we'll see you in the next episode.
See you then.